The first time I heard her name, it was spoken like a warning. Not admiration. Not respect.
Fear.
Don't look at her too long, one of the officers muttered as we approached the council chamber. And whatever you do, don't stare at the scars. I frowned. Scars? I asked. He hesitated. You'll understand when you see her. That wasn't comforting. I was Commander Elias Vance of the United Earth Fleet, sent as a diplomatic envoy to the far reaches of known space. My mission was simple, at least on paper. Establish relations with the Threxian Dominion. Secure an alliance. Avoid conflict. But from the moment I arrived, I knew something was wrong. The Dominion wasn't united. Not truly. They were fractured. Afraid. And at the center of it all was their queen. The chamber doors opened with a low, resonant hum. And then I saw her. She stood alone at the far end of the hall, framed by towering pillars of dark crystal. Her presence filled the space, not through movement, but through stillness. Power radiated from her in a way I couldn't quite explain. And then I saw the scars. They traced across her face, her arms, her neck, jagged, uneven, unmistakably real. Some looked old, faded with time. Others were newer, sharper, like wounds that had never fully healed. The officers beside me lowered their gaze. I didn't, because what I saw wasn't weakness. It was survival. You stare, she said. Her voice echoed through the chamber, low and steady. I observe, I replied calmly. A murmur rippled through the room. No one spoke to her like that. But I wasn't here to play politics. I was here to understand. She stepped forward slightly, her eyes locking onto mine. You are human, she said. Yes. And you are not afraid. I considered that. I've seen worse, I said. That wasn't entirely true. But fear, I'd learned, was often a choice. And I wasn't going to let it control this moment. The chamber fell silent. Then, to everyone's surprise, she smiled. It was small, subtle, but real. Interesting, she said. That was how it began. Her name was Queen Calthera, and she ruled a dominion that no longer believed in her. Over the next few days, I learned the truth. The scars weren't just physical. They were political, symbolic, a mark of something deeper. They think I am cursed, Calthera told me as we walked through a quiet corridor overlooking the capital city. Below us, the lights of the Dominion flickered like distant stars. Cursed? I repeated. She nodded. In our culture, perfection is strength. Flawlessness is power. To be marked, she paused, her fingers brushing lightly over one of the scars on her arm, is to be diminished. I leaned against the railing, studying the city. And how did you get them? I asked. She didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was quieter. I fought. I looked at her. For your throne? For my people. That changed everything. She turned to face me fully. There was a war, she said. An invasion from beyond our borders. We were unprepared, divided, weak. And you stepped up. Yes. Her gaze hardened. I led the defense. I stood where others would not. I took the blows meant for my people. I glanced at the scars again. They're not marks of failure, I said. They are to them. Then they're wrong. She studied me carefully. You say that easily. I say it honestly. Silence settled between us. Then, why? She asked. Why what? Why do you not see what they see? I thought about it, then answered simply. Because I'm human. Word spread quickly. The human commander, who didn't fear the queen, who spoke to her directly, who didn't look away. Some saw it as courage. Others saw it as foolishness. But it changed something. Not in the Dominion. In her. One evening, I found her alone in the war chamber. Holographic maps flickered around her, displaying borders, fleet positions, enemy movements. "You're preparing for something?" I said. She didn't turn. "They're coming back," she said. "The invaders?" "Yes." I stepped closer. "And your people still doubt you. They always have." That wasn't entirely true, but it felt that way to her. "Then prove them wrong," I said. She finally looked at me. "I already have." "Not to them." Silence. "Then, what would you have me do?" she asked. I smiled slightly. "Fight," I said. "And let them see it." The attack came sooner than expected. Massive ships tore through the edge of Dominion space, their weapons cutting through defenses like they weren't even there. Panic spread. Command structures faltered. Leaders hesitated. But not her. Kalthira stood at the center of it all, issuing orders with calm precision. And this time, I stood beside her. "You don't have to do this," one of her advisors said to me. "This is not your war." I glanced at him. "It is now." The battle was brutal. Explosions lit up the void. Ships burned. Lives were lost. But through it all, she fought. Not from behind a screen, but on the front lines. Her command ship led the charge, diving straight into the heart of the enemy formation. "They'll target us," I warned. "Good," she replied. And they did. Everything they had. Weapons. Missiles. Energy beams that could tear ships apart. And still, she held the line. "Why?" I asked at one point, as the ship shuddered under another hit. "Because they must see," she said. "See what?" Her eyes met mine. "That I am not broken." The turning point came when the enemy flagship appeared. Larger, stronger, deadlier. It tore through the Dominion fleet like a predator. "They can't stop it," someone said. Kalthira stepped forward. "We can." I looked at her. "You have a plan?" "No," she said. Then, "But I have resolve." Before I could respond, she gave the order. Full assault. Direct course. Straight at the flagship. It was insane. Reckless. Impossible. And exactly what was needed. The Dominion fleet hesitated, then followed. For the first time, they moved as one. Not out of fear, but belief. The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. Her ship took hit after hit. Systems failed. Shields collapsed. But she didn't retreat, didn't falter. And in the end, they broke the flagship. The explosion lit up the void like a second sun. And just like that, the enemy retreated. Silence filled the aftermath. The fleet drifted, damaged, but alive. And at the center, her ship, still standing. When we returned to the capital, everything had changed. The same people who once looked away, now watched in awe. No fear, only respect. She stood before them once more, the scars still there, unchanged. But now, they meant something different. "You were right," she said to me later, as we stood overlooking the city once again. "About what?" They needed to see. I nodded. Sometimes people don't understand strength until it saves them. She smiled faintly. "And you," she said, "you saw it from the beginning." I just told the truth. "No," she said. "You gave me something more." I raised an eyebrow. "What's that?" "Belief." I looked out at the city, at the people who now stood united, at a queen who had never truly been broken, only misunderstood. "They feared you," I said. "And now, they follow you." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "They always could have," she said. "They just needed someone to remind them." I chuckled softly, glad I could help. As my ship prepared to leave days later, she came to see me off. "You're returning to your people," she said. "Yes." "Will you tell them about us?" I smiled. Of course. And what will you say? I thought about it. Then, that I met a queen, I said. Not defined by her scars, but by her strength. She nodded. That is enough. As I boarded my ship, I took one last look back. At the Dominion, at the Queen, at everything that had changed, and I realized something. Strength isn't always what people expect. It doesn't always look perfect. Sometimes, it looks like scars. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to see the truth.